For years, Prince Edward was viewed as the quiet member of the royal family. He rarely made headlines, avoided public controversies, and carried out his duties without attracting attention. While other royals found themselves at the centre of endless media storms, Edward seemed content to remain in the background. But according to growing reports and royal speculation, that quiet approach may have hidden something far more powerful. Behind the scenes, Edward had allegedly spent years protecting what Queen Elizabeth II intended for him. And when questions began to arise about those intentions, he was ready. What happened next reportedly stunned the palace and forced even King Charles to confront a reality he had not expected. The heart of the controversy centres around the Duke of Edinburgh title and Bagshot Park, the home where Edward and Sophie have lived for years. To the public, it appeared simple. In 2023, King Charles formally granted Edward the Duke of Edinburgh title, fulfilling what many believed had long been Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's wish. The announcement was welcomed by royal watchers, and the matter seemed settled. Yet according to reports circulating among royal commentators, there was another issue tied to the title that would become far more important than anyone realised. That issue was Bagshot Park, a historic royal estate that Edward had spent decades restoring, maintaining, and turning into a family home. What makes Bagshot Park different from many other royal residences is the amount of personal investment Edward reportedly made into the property. When he first took responsibility for the estate, significant renovation work was required. Millions of pounds were spent restoring the property, with Edward contributing substantial amounts of his own money. Over the years, the estate became more than a royal residence. It became the centre of his family's life and a symbol of the role he had quietly built within the monarchy. Unlike other royal properties that changed hands through tradition alone, Bagshot Park carried years of documented agreements, financial commitments, and legal arrangements. As discussions reportedly emerged within palace circles about modernising royal assets and reviewing various property arrangements, attention allegedly turned toward Bagshot Park. Questions began surfacing about who ultimately controlled certain royal residences and whether existing agreements could be revisited. While many assumed the king could simply decide the outcome, the situation was reportedly far more complicated. Edward's position was not based solely on family tradition. It was supported by leases, contracts, and years of documented investment. What some viewed as a simple family matter was, in reality, a legal issue backed by decades of paperwork. According to royal insiders and commentators, this is where Edward's legal team entered the picture. Rather than responding emotionally or publicly, Edward reportedly relied on documentation. Lawyers allegedly assembled records detailing the financial investments made into Bagshot Park, the agreements governing the property, and evidence showing the long-term arrangements that had been established years earlier. The result was a legal position that many observers described as extremely difficult to challenge. What appeared to be a royal disagreement suddenly became a matter of law, and the distinction changed everything. The situation became even more significant because it touched on a larger question facing the monarchy. How much authority does a modern monarch truly have when previous commitments have been documented and legally secured? Many people assume a king possesses unlimited power over royal matters, but modern constitutional reality is far more restricted. Contracts, leases, and legal obligations continue to exist regardless of family relationships. According to reports, Edward's lawyers argued that these agreements could not simply be ignored because circumstances had changed. As the story spread, it began attracting attention far beyond palace walls. Commentators noted that Edward's quiet reputation may have actually strengthened his position. Unlike royals who frequently found themselves defending controversies, Edward had spent decades building an image of reliability and responsibility. That reputation made the allegations especially striking. Here was a man who had never sought conflict, suddenly finding himself at the centre of one of the most talked about royal disputes in years. Perhaps the most surprising aspect of the entire story was the suggestion that Edward had anticipated potential challenges long before they appeared. Reports highlighted long-term lease arrangements and financial decisions made years earlier that now seemed remarkably strategic. What once looked like routine planning suddenly appeared to be careful preparation. If true, it meant Edward had spent decades quietly protecting his family's future, while attracting almost no public attention for doing so. In the end, the controversy was never really about a house. It was about promises, authority, and the lasting impact of Queen Elizabeth II's decisions. According to those following the story, Edward's greatest victory was not preserving a property, but demonstrating that commitments made by a monarch cannot simply be rewritten when convenient. Whether every claim proves accurate or not, the narrative has captured public attention because it raises fundamental questions about how the monarchy functions behind closed doors. Today, Prince Edward remains one of the least controversial figures in the royal family. Yet if the reports are to be believed, he also proved something few expected. The quietest royal may have been the most prepared. And when the moment came to defend what had been promised to him, he did not need public battles, dramatic interviews, or royal confrontations. He simply needed the documents. In a family built on history, tradition, and legacy, that may have been the most powerful move of all.